Well, hello and good day, everybody. Welcome to today's show. Today, we've got a live show with you talking about from going from super worker to super coach and transforming management dynamics. Now, my name is Lory Quakenbush. I'm with APMG International. I'm out of New York, and I'm absolutely excited to be your host today. Now, first of all, I want to take a moment to thank our audience. We have loads of folks in attendance today. So thank you so much for joining us. We also have Blanche and Alanis are over handling our socials and helping us out there. So be sure, get involved. Put your questions in the chat, introduce yourself. And we'll be able to answer live questions throughout the show. Now we do have an extremely experienced panel today, so we're going to jump right in and get to introduce to them. And also, just a reminder: this is the second part of a longer series talking about STAR. So we're going to have this roughly every month or so. So please stay tuned for upcoming shows. So first, ladies first, let me introduce Barbara Trotter. Now, Barbara is business owner and leader of Star Coach Leadership, and she spent over 2 decades fostering genuine connections, prioritizing stakeholder needs, cultivating collaborative environments. As a key leader at Star Coach Leadership, she specializes in leadership coaching, business relationship management, customer service, business management, and sales. And now her expertise lies in guiding professionals to elevate their leadership skills, enhance team dynamics, and drive meaningful results. Barbara's super passionate about empowering others through coaching, consulting, training, and education, and she's happy to share her experience today. Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Hey, Lory. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Happy Friday, and thank you for joining us. We
Yes,
really
happy
appreciate
Friday.
having you here.
Thanks.
Next, we have Mart Rovers. Now, Mart is a leadership coach, consulting, and trainer. And he's been educating and coaching leaders, professionals, and teams for decades. So he's very passionate in what he's been doing for a very long time. He works for Star Coach Leadership, which is a coaching, consulting, training, and education firm. Some examples of the areas he specializes in are leadership coaching, business relationship management, service management, information security management, and project and change management. So he's done a lot of things. He's really looking forward to sharing some experience today, and he's got a lot of questions to answer. So, Mark, as always, thank you for being here and joining our show today.
Lory, thanks so much for having me. And I wouldn't fall out of my typical habit if I wouldn't have an opening quote, right? It's about the show for today, a super worker to super coach. So I found this quote from Michael Jordan, who once said, "A coach is someone who sees beyond your limits." I thought
Interesting.
it was a
See
good one,
beyond your limits. I
right?
like that. Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
huh? That's a good one.
It's
That's a
Michael
good one.
Jordan. Yeah.
Now I'm going to throw you guys for a loop, of course, because that's what I like to do for the very first question, just so we're all on a level playing field. First question is what is STAR? What is actually STAR? What does it mean? Who would like to start us off with what this is? Mark?
I can take it. Yes, absolutely. So STAR is a model that was developed by Notion, a UK company,
Mhm.
and easily 15 plus years ago, and been very successful as a model. It's an acronym for Stop, Think, Ask, and Result, and it literally is meant for managers, leaders to enable teams, empower teams by doing something that's referred to as operational coaching. And an easy way to explain that would be as in coaching in the moment, as in stopping yourself from, hey, let me answer your question, instead of just answering questions from team members and giving them the fix or the solution and then sending them off. Stop yourself in ways as in, would this be a coachable moment? Think about, is this a coachable moment where I can just not just simply give the answer, but ask maybe a question. That's where the ask comes in.
Right.
A question that makes them think.
Right.
And in other words, instead of you just spoon feeding them, the person now starts to actually use certain, actually other parts in their brain. So there's even been proven through neuroscience that it activates other parts in your brain. And because of that, people come up with their own answers and they feel empowered. They feel like, oh, I came up with that myself, simply by encouraging them to, through a few powerful questions, as they call it. And then there are some results to check in, as in did the fix actually work? Basically, making
Right.
sure that people do feel truly empowered because it worked what they did.
Right. It makes perfect sense just to kind of change how you're handling things, right? How you're approaching
Yes,
issues. And I know we're going to get into it at some point later, and we'll talk a
we
little
do.
bit about the book, which is phenomenal, but lots of good stuff here. So
Yeah.
why don't we get right into it? If you guys are okay with answering some live questions, we have a ton of them already lined up. So we're going to do our
Okay.
best, folks, to get through to all the live questions today with the time that we have. So we're going to do our best. I'm going to get to the very first one. The very first question is why are traditional management styles becoming obsolete? This is from Glenn. And Glenn, this is a really good question. So thank you. Who would like to start with this one? Mark, Barbara?
Actually, I will start. I really want to start with this one. So, because they're built for compliance, not creativity, a lot of times people forget about the creativity, right? Traditional management is rooted in directing and correcting, and um, it's not guiding. And today's employees, if you're looking at honestly today's employees, especially Gen Z, millennials, right? I'm going to be really honest, not X's, like, because I'm an X. They want to be developed and not just delegated to.
Right.
I'm going to be honest, I'm used to just being told what to do, right? But this
Same.
new, you know, I would say younger generation, they want to be developed. And according to Deloitte, 49% of young professionals say they would actually leave a job if they don't feel heard and supported. And
Mhm.
I've talked to a couple of people that I can definitely vouch for that they do feel that way. And I worked with the university director, still leading with fear, right? And micromanaging schedules and just
Yeah.
double checking emails and even correcting the tone of people. And the turnover was insane. Like nobody wanted to work with this
Right.
person. And after taking Star, you know, she pushed pause a lot of times instead of, just doing, she pushed pause to ask,
Right.
what do you think we should do here? What do you think about this? And the morale shifted so quickly and the trust grew. And that's one of the biggest things, right? It was the moment that she actually moved to from like a manager to a mentor. And that was a huge change.
Yeah. I can see that, manager to mentor. What a difference. And it is right. You hit the nail on the head, I think, when you look at the different generations and how we all have
Yes.
brought up differently, and the work ethics are different. Not necessarily, better or worse, just
Right.
different atmosphere, different environment. So I
Yeah.
think this is so important nowadays, especially now with what we're all going through, and lots of changes and things. And I think knowing how to handle and keeping morale up and keeping, retention, right? We want to make sure
Yeah.
we're keeping the employees that actually work hard and care. So, well,
Yeah.
good stuff. Really good stuff. Mart, did you want to add anything, or should we go to the next question?
Just quickly, it's that control-based leadership that is kind of the past. It should be.
Right.
There's simply not enough time, and especially in these days when things are so fast and so many changes, like you just mentioned. There's no time to be the fixer anymore,
Right.
because yeah, it's so fast paced, and to be that control person, this as in yeah, an additional burden you shouldn't take on. I once worked with a senior IT manager, and he literally said, I feel like a babysitter. Literally, he admitting he wasn't leading, but he was firefighting. And Star gave that person a structure. It stopped him from jumping into every ticket, and he began to think, and as in, can we do this differently? And why should I solve this? Is this maybe somebody else's solution? So he started asking these powerful questions, and within weeks, actually, he saw a tremendous shift that improved that relationship in essence. And it was not because he did more; he actually did less.
Right.
Um, but he saw his team grow. as a result.
Wow. Just a span of weeks too, huh?
Yeah, it can be that fast. Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty powerful, especially this day and age when things are
people
just
pick up on that. Yeah,
yeah, things are moving so
yeah,
quickly. Good
yeah.
stuff. All right, guys, we're going to get into our next live question. All right. Our next question is from Rachel. Rachel's question is, how can managers shift from problem solving to enablement? That is a good one. Who would like to take on this one?
I'll take it, Lory.
All right, Mart.
Yeah, so it's a great question, actually. It starts with recognizing that solving is a short-term success. If you solve somebody else's issues or problems, that's maybe a short-term win. But when you enable by asking these powerful questions, that's long-term growth. You think about it, you help the other person grow, feeling more confident and more empowered eventually, as in, hey, I did that. Yes.
Right.
So it's one of the biggest mind shifts is that these asking these powerful questions by making people think in ways. And asking questions doesn't have to be a sign of weakness. That's the other thing, right? People feel like, oh, I had the fix, but I asked a question instead, and now I'm looking weak because I asked a question. If you think about it in a few words, it's like a performance strategy.
Right.
You improve people's performance. So a quick example, I supported a manager once in a healthcare team, and she was always swooped in as, saving the day, the person of the hour. And after STAR training, she told me that she asked, being that saving grace, it actually said she went that far by saying that it saved her career. She started
Wow.
using the phrase as in, how would you approach this? Turning the question into a question, the answer is a question,
Right.
just like the book says. Yes. So the team then we started taking initiative, and her stress levels dropped. Who doesn't want that? Right. And she created space basically for leading instead of, being the all-time fixer.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. And it's like what's that old saying? You can, you know, give a man a fish and you feed him for the day, or you can teach him to fish, right? It's got the same kind of,
That's it. That's
kind of
it.
mindset, right? If you
Yeah.
give
That's it.
somebody the ability to kind of think for themselves, they feel just so much more part of,
Yeah.
the workplace, and like their ideas and thoughts and what they think it actually matters. And it can be huge again for go back to like the morale. But at the end of the day, it's just, giving people their own ability to be accountable, right?
Love that quote.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That was your quote for the day. I love it.
My quote for the day. Just threw that one out. Yeah. Barbara, did you want to add to this?
Yes. So while Mart was, while he was talking, one of the biggest things that I really appreciate and love about this, this form of knowledge and then the way that it's being led, it's not just tactical, it's emotional. And that's where you have the people portion. And I think that the human portion and the people portion is missing, right? And this,
right.
I worked with a nonprofit executive, right? And I don't know about everybody else in the audience, but just like her, carried I do the same thing, carry everybody else's problems.
Right.
And, she was stuck in this super worker mode, afraid that letting go would mean letting people down. And, and honestly, STAR helped her realize. And when I took STAR, it helped me realize that my role isn't to protect my team from growth, it's to guide them through it.
Right. Right.
There's a whole difference. And once you start really understanding that, that's where, like Mart was saying about empowering, right?
Right.
And then honestly, she started asking more than telling. And then one team member said, I feel like you actually believe in me now. And, that's enablement. That's leadership. That's priceless.
Right. It's just
especially in this day and age.
right. It just changes the whole mindset. And I love that folks are putting comments into the social chat. Please keep doing that. Nicole Riley just made a comment about, being Gen X, and I can relate because I'm a Gen X as well. And it's such a different, it's a different, I guess, bridge to cross, right? Thank you for popping it back up. So we love that you guys are talking to us and communicating, because this is something we all have to deal with. I don't care what industry you're in. This is something that can be so frustrating, and like she just mentioned here, being denied being a major contributor, that's huge. That's huge. So I'm glad we have Star in place to kind of maybe change and shift mindsets here. So good stuff. Thanks for everybody for being so engaged. We really love this. I'm going to go to the next question now. Let me see here. We have, bear with me. All right, our next question is, this is from Bobby. What makes the STAR model different from other coaching approaches? And this, I think, is key, right? Because we all hear, coaching. Okay, well, what's the secret sauce of this? Why is this different than every other coaching thing? What makes this a different creature or a unicorn? Who wants to take this one?
I do.
Barbara?
Sorry, Mart. I'm like, sorry.
Ladies first. Ladies.
Thank you. It's practical. It's immediate. It's built for individuals that are the managers that are busy. It's built for the managers that are the go-getters, right? And that they really do want to see that change. They really do want to see and develop the culture, right? And switch that, or give it that shift to a different type of culture. And it doesn't ask you to block off an hour of coaching, an hour for coaching, but like it fits into the flow of your daily leadership, the meetings. I know for me, I was able to get immediate results within a very small amount of time.
Right.
And time is very valuable to me. And you can use it in a hallway check-in, on a Zoom call, while grabbing coffee. One of my clients said, this is the first coaching method that they could actually remember to do in the middle of a busy day.
Right.
And that's the brilliance of stop, think, ask, results, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that you don't have to stop to do it and write everything down. It's literally you're in the moment, like Mart said earlier, you're in the moment where you're like, hey, I can empower this person by asking them a question and helping them grow, and instead of stopping them.
Right. And isn't that the key? I feel like, you have, again, a lot of other coaching certifications and things out there, but it's, very formal, very rigid, right? It's a whole, structure, sit down, like you said, an hour coaching session. And that's not getting people to kind of think on their feet and think on the fly. And like you said, walking in a hallway and somebody asks a question and be able to kind of pivot. And because you've gone through this process, because you're thinking differently, so then in turn, you're answering that question with a smarter question. And doesn't have to be a formal, rigid situation. It can just be, hey, I'm kind of coaching you on the fly. So it's something that can just enact right at that moment. I think that's so important. Again, it's more like effective and efficient at the same time, right?
My two favorite words, Lory.
Effective and efficient. We do have a comment from Steve. He asked us to spell out what STAR model stands for again, please. Mark, do you mind? Since you're the expert. What is STAR?
STAR, it's the acronym for stop yourself and think, as in, is this a coachable moment? And if it is, ask. A is for ask a question, the powerful question, and then check in with results, as in you came up with an answer. We both agreed that this would be the right approach. Let me check in and see if that actually worked. That's the result part. Yeah.
Good stuff. Dawn answered it for you right in the comments. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate you. Okay, we're going to get into the next question unless anybody has anything else to add for this one. Okay. Lots of live questions coming. Again, we're going to do our best to get to everyone today, but we probably won't. We have a lot of folks here. All right. Next one is from Simon. Simon asks, how do powerful questions transform team performance? This is a good one because it's all about the team. Who wants to tackle this one?
Lory, I'll
All
take it.
right.
Yeah, the ask part is really critical in this model. Obviously, I mean, this is where the powerful questions come in, and this is where also the training comes in as far as what is a powerful question. But you know, because these answers that people give, it's something they came up with themselves, right? So it's you develop them in a way because of that, these powerful questions. You make them think, right? These are typically open questions where you encourage them to say, hey, what would you do differently? Or what do you think would work in this particular scenario? There's actually research that was done, and the Gallup poll once showed that employees who are asked these questions, they feel they're being consulted on decisions, and they're 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered. I mean, think about it, 4.6 times,
That's a lot.
you know, almost 5 times more empowered. I mean, that must be a wonderful day, right? Coming out,
Right.
coming out of that, as far as feeling so much better. It's habit based. This star model. It changes behaviors. It changes the way people feel, in essence. So one of my clients actually, whose team was never offered ideas. Once that manager started asking these powerful questions, as in, what's the one thing, for example, you can improve in this process? You know, again, encouraging people to think and think for themselves. That whole conversation and that whole relationship started to flow easier. As in, it felt like, hey, this manager is there for me. So that change actually ended saving them lots and lots of not only time but also money. Time is money. So yeah, people of organizations, actually, there's plenty of research that was done, and quotes from people that went through the model, sharing how much they saved in time and money and how they earned in additional sales. And these are real numbers; they're not made up numbers. They come straight from people that went through the whole transition, actually.
Yeah. Barbara, did you want to add to that?
I did, Lory. I'm sorry. I'm like adding to every
Don't be
question
sorry. That's
here,
why we're
but
live.
there's honestly, I'm really excited. I'm so excited about this. So, the questions build courage, right? Um, they allow people to be seen, and I think that, again, I talk about things that are priceless. I think that's priceless. I remember working with an educational team where one staff member, and I know there's so many people that could probably, relate to this. There's that one person that never speaks up in a meeting, and they always like try to be the closed one behind the door.
Yeah.
And the leader had asked, what would it take for you to feel heard here? And that person actually started sharing ideas that completely transformed their whole curriculum, like just with that one question, and actually allowing and empowering that person to speak, right? And to ask. It was just a simple question that opened up this waterfall of information that nobody else would have had.
Right. That's so powerful because it can be overwhelming, especially sometimes, maybe you get into a meeting or a room with a lot of people, maybe have a lot to say, right?
Yeah.
It can be almost daunting to, right? Maybe speak your mind, speak your voice. But if you're asking the right questions and you feel like, you can speak your mind and you will actually, be heard, that's huge. That is absolutely so powerful. And, might be able to get something out of that person that you didn't even know was there, right? So
Yes.
I just think this can just, you can, again, like you mentioned, waterfall, just see how impactful this is. Great
Yeah.
question, Simon. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to get on to the next one. We'll rattle right through these guys. Next one is from Gary. And Gary's question is, what are the hidden costs of being a super worker manager? That's a good question. Super worker manager. Who wants to take this one? Come on,
The
Barbara.
managers that are the problem solvers, like me. Well, used to be. There's so many. Oh my gosh. Okay, so chronic stress, team dependency, missed innovation, things that people don't think about. I know a lot of people think about the tangible ROIs, right?
Yep.
But they don't think about the non-tangible ROIs. The American Institute of Stress reports that 83% of workers suffer from work-related stress. That's high.
Wow.
And
That's high.
right, like just think about that really quick. 83%.
That's crazy.
That's like right. And honestly, like a large portion is because the leaders are overwhelmed and they're under-resourced.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So a lot of times they micromanage or they'll just be like, oh, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. Instead of empowering that person, asking the questions and letting that person go ahead and grow and do it. Right.
Right.
And, I worked with the director. I'll never forget this. I worked with the director who proudly said, nothing leaves my department without my review. And I was like, okay, that sounds admirable. That's awesome. But it was a bottleneck.
Right.
Like, there was no place for it to go. Right. And her team wasn't learning. She was working weekends. And I introduced her to STAR, and it helped her learn how to delegate with development and not just dump the tasks. Right.
Right.
It learned how she understood how to ask those questions while delegating to where they would understand and honestly started asking themselves the questions.
Right.
That's where it really gets good. So
right. And that's a key point. You talked about the bottleneck. I feel like we all deal with that all the time. I mean, I used to work on Wall Street, and that was the biggest thing in an office of 80 brokers. And God forbid you had questions, it would just, like you said, go down this whole line and become a bottleneck. It was nuts. And now, guys, we're going to have to speed this up because we have tons and tons of live questions. And again, I know, guys, probably not going to get to them all, but I'm going to try to turn up the speed dial here so we can try to get through some more of them. And you guys are wonderful. Thanks for asking the questions. And don't forget, folks, again, get your questions in. We'll try to get to them all. Thanks for being on socials. Thanks again to the large audience we have today. And don't forget QR codes and things down at the bottom of the screen as well. So, and again, shout out to the folks on the chat, Shanice and Alanis, and Blanche for helping us out today. So thank you, guys. All right. I want to put on my New Yorker voice and work right through these pretty quickly, as I can talk fast. Okay. How can managers reduce stress while improving team capabilities? This comes from Camille. Let's take this one.
I'll take that one quickly. Yeah, give most of the time. Camille, great question. It creates space. That's basically what this does. It stops these leaders from reacting, and giving the answers away, and which may not always be the right answer. And start asking, as in tap into the person who's asking the question, tap into their brain powers in essence, and start activating that in essence. And people feel more responsible because it was their own answer, it was their idea, or jointly we came up with that, and take ownership of things. A client once told me, the day I stopped answering every question was the day that my team started growing. And I think that says it all.
It does. That makes perfect sense. Again, you can just see how powerful this can be, just literally across the board for, you reduce stress, reduce stress, boost morale, increase or maintain retention of employees. I mean, I know we're probably going to get into some of the revenue stuff of how impactful this can be on revenue to employers as well, right? Not having to, kind of keep looking on the market and training and retraining folks could just change up how they were managing folks, right? And
Right.
completely change the game. So, all right, I'm going to keep going, folks. Barbara, did you want to add or can I keep it going?
Yes, just really, really, really quick. I always tell managers, again, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very people oriented.
Yes.
And growth oriented with people and the human, part of things. I always tell managers that I speak with that you're not selfish for needing space. And you're smart for that, because when you show up well, everybody honestly wins. And honestly, coaching isn't a luxury. It's not. It's a leadership strategy that reclaims your time, your energy, and your focus. So if you think that you're being selfish, you're not. You're just preparing yourself to give more and be better.
Can you say that again? Selfish isn't needing space. I want to get that on a t-shirt. I want to get that on a t-shirt.
Right.
Because sometimes people do feel that way, right? You feel like,
Yes.
oh my God, I'm so guilty for needing some space. I love that.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. That was a good one. I'm going to keep moving, folks, and try to get through as many as we can here. Next question is from Jeffrey. What prevents managers from adopting a coaching mindset? What are the roadblocks? What's going on?
Control. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Sorry. Control,
Control.
care, identity. There's so much. Many managers we're praised for, and I say we because managers, many managers were praised for having the answers, right? So letting go feels really risky, and STAR reframes that. You're not losing control, you're building capacity. Like your your bandwidth is increasing, right? And one leader told me, I thought I'd be less capable if I asked questions. And it turns out that they were actually seen as more strategic.
Love that. Love that. That makes complete sense. Makes total sense. Mart, did you want to add anything, or can we keep rolling through?
Just one quick comment. It takes away the fear when you ask these powerful questions, because you don't always know the answer, right? And STAR gives us that roadmap by asking these questions, and the right questions, powerful questions, that gives people the permission and the process to grow, and it helps the managers to grow in a confident manner, as in we did this together, right? You don't have to have all the answers.
Right. I love that. It's like, again, you go back to what Barbara mentioned about control, because we see that every single day, right? People just have to have control over everything and don't want to let go of it. But when they realize that actually doing that is actually so much beneficial to them, reduces stress, helps empower their team. And again, at the end of the day, it's better for results. So good stuff. Also, folks, just so you know, we have a poll launch right now. So go ahead to the audience and please vote if you get a chance. We really appreciate it. And I know we're running out of time. Well, we're going to try to get through as many of these live questions as we can. And again, we really appreciate all the folks being so engaging on, the socials and putting in their questions. So thank you, guys. Next question, and I know we're rolling right through these, guys, is how does operational coaching improve employee engagement? And this is from Sean. And I know we've kind of touched on this, but it's a good one. Mart?
Yes, great question, Sean. So yeah, it's quite strong. Speaking of polls, according to a gauge for success, coaching managers at Coach increased team engagement by to 70%. Even if it's 30 or 20 or 40%, I mean, it's still a great number if you think about it. People feel more trusted. Like Barbara said, they feel heard. Who doesn't want that? Right? And they feel included, as in I was part of this. And that's also where that empowerment comes in. A company I worked with, within 12 weeks, they saw a 17% bump in engagement scores. And engagement, I mean, if you look at the latest numbers from Gallup, it's deploring. It's really, really bad as far as team engagement, people engagement, how people feel that they're part of something, and the reason why so many people are not involved, engaged, and leave basically. So it's quite powerful.
That's a big number, 17%.
Yeah,
that's a big change. So you said 70% in 12 weeks, right?
17% bump in just 12 weeks.
Wow, that is Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, why would employers want to take this on, right? Yes, they want to have better culture, better environments, but at the end of the day, it's revenue and engagement too, right? It all kind of,
Yep.
ties together because they want to have, better, better overall results and be more profitable, right? So these are
Well,
good
they
questions.
want better retention, right?
Retention, right? Because it costs money and time and
Exactly.
effort and
Big time.
efficiency. It's like that
Yeah.
all boats rise and all boats fall. So that makes
Exactly.
sense. All right, I'm going to be quiet and march through the next question. All right, our next one. And again, thank you so much, folks, for bringing these in. Brian, what metrics demonstrate coaching effectiveness? Get down to the returns and ROI. This is the good stuff.
I will definitely take
Tackle
this
it.
one. So basically tracking engagement, turnover, the manager well-being, that's a huge one. Team-led solutions. One client, tracked coaching with Star for 6 months, right? And they honestly saw a 28% increase in team productivity.
Wow.
And 100% retention in high potential staff, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and it was about 35% reduction in escalated issues because they were asking, individuals not why are you doing this, but like what would you do? In other words, let's put you in this situation instead of me doing this for you. What would you what would you do, right? And those leaderships, styles, those win, and they bring the metrics that people are looking for.
It turns around to that. Remember Jerry Maguire, us Generation Xers too. Help me
I
to
do
help
remember.
you. Help me to help
Yeah.
you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Mark, did you want to add, or can we keep going?
Yeah. Just in general, are your people growing? How
Right.
about that for a metric? Are our managers thriving? Why don't we measure that? Here's one you gonna like, Barbara. Star is not just a model. Star is like a mirror.
Interesting. Mirror. I like that. And
Yeah.
I feel like we talked about this on the last event we had about how STAR isn't just for the workplace and business. We can use this in other places, folks, and
At
relationship
home.
managers and at home.
Yes.
Right. This
Yeah.
isn't just something to be utilized at work, but
True.
to be used as
Yeah.
our everyday. Barbara.
You can use it with your kids.
Yeah.
I did it. I
Yeah.
tried it. It works. And I have grown kids, so it actually works. And they then use it on their friends. So it was that was something to see.
Yeah. I feel like my nephew has been doing this to me for years, asking questions with a question. No, you ask him something and he turns around and asks him, like, how does he know that? It's amazing. All right, we're gonna roll to the next ones. Okay, the next question is this comes from Candace. How can someone future-proof their career by focusing on coaching competencies, even if they're not in a leadership position yet? Really good question, Candace. Thank you. Who wants to tackle this one?
I'll take it. It all comes back to it's scalable. It's something that you can do in the flow, in normal conversations, in any discussion, meetings. It's not this sit down thing, right? You carve out an hour and not going to be a coach. It's again, it helps people to feel empowered. It helps them to feel enabled. It's a smarter way of delegating if you think about it. In the STAR model, we refer to that as intentional enablement. It's not one of those where it says you need weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of training or something of that nature to become such coach. It's literally in a few days that we teach you the tricks, so to speak, and then it's of course a matter of applying. You will be asked to check in and see, hey, did it work? How's it going for you? So there's some coaching involved with the training. It's something that anybody can use. It's a habit change. It's not as in I have to learn this model, and now I have to remember it.
Right.
You can use it in any conversation, whether you're a leader or not, whether you work with your peers and who ask questions or are stuck, ask them the powerful questions, right?
Right.
So again, it's not just for leaders, like you said earlier. You can use
Right.
it anywhere.
Well, I think that's key. I know we've already talked about it, but it's just, this pertains to everybody. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter what your background is or your education or the industry.
correct.
And,
Correct.
this can just, like you said, change your
Yep.
mindset, complete change. And then this can help you, right?
What this has resulted into is that whole organizations have changed into coaching cultures.
Right.
It has a huge ripple effect in essence, not just for the happy few. Anybody can do this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right, Barbara, real quick, because we're getting yelled at. We got to keep going.
Yeah, I know. So when it comes to the coaching competencies, I saw that somebody was asking that, when Mart was talking about being that mirror, it's that question of what would you do that you've seen other leaders do, right? What would you do differently? What would you do the same? Um, those are the type of things that will allow you to position yourself to be the leader that you want to become.
Right.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many coaching competencies. That's a whole nother show. But even if they're not in a leadership position yet, be the leader that you want to be. Be the leader that that you would want, and start asking the questions that you want your leader to ask you. Like, be that example.
Isn't that
Honestly,
so powerful? I love that. Another thing for a t-shirt. We should make some t-shirts after this.
I know, man.
Love
I
it.
have a couple t-shirts coming.
Love it. All right, we're gonna plow right through this. We have live questions coming in left and right. So again, apologize if we're not gonna get to all of them, but we're gonna try our very best. So I'm gonna keep going on, guys. And maybe we'll just kind of run through these as quickly as possible. Next one is from Campbell. Is the logical step a move from management as a practice to an emphasis on leadership? That's a good question. It's a logical
A
step.
logical step to move from management as a practice to emphasis on leadership. Actually, that hits on a great point because, again, this is backed by independent research. There was a research done for 2 years to an independent organization to see if this actually worked. So this star model, which is also described in that book you were talking about earlier. The answer is a question. It's on Amazon. So literally the results were, if I've captured in 4 words, what when you start applying star is you end up doing less, managing less, coaching more, obviously, but also leading more. And that's the way I would answer this question. You end up having more time to lead. You will also be perceived easier or better as a leader because you're not the fixer, the doer. In other words, you position yourself because of this at a level as in you are a coach, you are a leader. You help me grow. You help me feeling heard. You are the leader I can work with, in essence.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a leadership style.
Love it. Yeah, have more time to lead. It's very impactful.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna keep flowing, guys. We're going through them. Okay, next question is also from Candace. What are the biggest mindset shifts required when moving from a high-performing individual contributor to a coaching leader? Another great question. Who wants to tackle it? Barbara's thinking.
You want to go, Barbara?
I'll let you go, and then I'll
Yeah.
I'll piggyback off of you.
High performing individual is the high performing individual always the fixer, the doer? Is that how we measure? That you're the high performing person, or are you the coach, the enabler? The team player who introduces coaching in the moment, coaching in the flow. I think that habits. Well, I know I've seen it. Is something that changes habits, it changes to how people perceive you. In other words, introducing coaching in the moment in your leadership style, it slows you down in a good way. We talked earlier about the stress that goes down, and it boosts morale and confidence levels around, with the people that you work with. So it's a shift in mindset, as in slow yourself down instead of being the fixer, but become the enabler, basically.
Right. Isn't that so true? It's like I feel like we just quick jump to something without taking a hot second.
Yeah.
I always say this, sometimes I say this to my husband, like count to 10, let's think about this for a second. That can be so powerful just to kind of start training your brain to do that and to think that way.
Right. Yeah.
Good stuff, guys.
Just
go ahead,
really quick,
Sorry.
I know you're gonna. So the thing about the mindset, it's I think it's more the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, because I know I am a high achiever, as I try, and I was on a very fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And when you are more of a coach, like in the leadership mindset, it's growth, because that's what that's more what you're focused on.
Yeah, that is so true. And that's,
true.
Sometimes we don't realize we have that fixed mindset, right?
Right.
So true. Mm-hmm. So true. All right. Well, thanks for adding that on. Sorry, I already skipped to the next question. This is from Raina. What are your thoughts on servant leadership? Ooh, this is a good one.
It is. It plays right into it. Sorry to jump into this one.
Jump into
quickly.
it.
No, it fits right in. So they definitely go hand in hand, and servant leadership definitely has some of these characteristics that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So not surprised you make this comment in essence, because I wouldn't perceive it as a question. So it's definitely a form of servant leadership. Mm-hmm. It's enabling leadership. You can give it many names, but definitely this is one of them. It also introduces some authenticity, right? Being authentic, allowing people to be authentic. So authentic leadership also plays into this very well. So absolutely, Ron. It's a good question. Yep.
Authentic leadership. I love that. All right. We're going to keep going, guys. We're going to, again, try to get to as many as we can. This is from Christophe. How close star model stands with reference to servant leadership? We could just kind of touched on this.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, it goes really well hand in hand. So great that you picked up on this, Christophe. Is it one and the same? I wouldn't go there. For servant leadership, you can extrapolate on many other areas. This is definitely one of the areas that is a form of servant leadership for sure.
Right. Yes. Yep. Servant leadership.
Definitely.
At least everybody's on the same page, and at least our audience seems to be on the same page. I love that. Perfect. Next one is from Sarah. As someone who likes to plan and sometimes struggle with spontaneity or thinking quickly, what are the questions I can have in my back pocket to use? This is a great question, Sarah, because we all, I think, have this and struggle to kind of quick think on your feet. Not everybody can just do that naturally. So who wants to tackle this one? This is a really good one.
We'll jump into this one again. It's just fast paced, right? So definitely you picked up on that, Sarah, very well. The questions are referred to as as powerful questions. And a form of powerful questions are open questions. And a lot of these open questions start with words like what and how or when, those types of. So remember those as far as how to start a question, and start with those words. What would you do in this situation? When did your solution not work, right? How would you do this differently next time? Or, what would be needed to help you moving forward with this? These are just a few examples.
Good ones.
Obviously, we emphasize on this in the training. There's actually a whole card deck with 50 plus questions about things you can make your own and make it part of your leadership style. Right. So yeah, speaking of having it in your pocket, you can literally have it in your pocket. That's a 50 card deck.
I like that, a little cheat sheet there. And I know we are going to talk about a little bit about some of the the benefits of the certifications, and if people are interested in getting into the STAR certifications, how they can do that. We'll talk about that shortly. But definitely, there it is. Yeah. So we'll definitely get into that. We'll talk a little bit more about the book as well. And again, please, folks, stay tuned, because we're going to be rolling these out on a monthly basis, and you have the experts here to talk about this. And, we are encouraging everybody to, we'll have links and QR codes and things, connect with our panelists and get involved and ask questions. That's what we're here for. I'm going to go to the next one quick, and I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to try to get to the last few questions here before we close up shop. This is from Amanzor. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. If not, I'm sorry. What are the adjustments needed to apply it properly according to a specific audience or target public? This is a good one.
There really are
Adjustments.
Sorry, I just completely went in. There really, honestly, Mart, there really are no adjustments, because they're really powerful questions that you're asking, and it can be, honestly, in almost any situation. I'm really trying to think of a situation that you would have to make an adjustment, but it's honestly it goes for any type of situation and audience, and yeah.
It's interesting.
Just quickly, so it's not specific per audience. It's maybe specific per situation, right?
Okay.
If you're in an emergency situation where the building is on fire, you're not going to build in coaching in the moment as what would you do in this situation? No, right? That's a whole different scenario. So the biggest adjustment is that a habit of slowing yourself down, stop being the fixer, and think. And is this a coachable moment? That's the biggest adjustment, because we're also fast-paced and fast fixers. Right. So it's more from that perspective to be an adjustment, and not so much as in who's the audience or who can I not do this with. We're individuals. We all want to be heard. We all have great ideas. Our brains, and this sounds creepy, are not tapped into by default. I mean, research was done between 10 and 20%. Organizations are tapping into people's brain powers. Again, sounds creepy, but the point is, we have all this creativity walking around, and we barely, touch it and benefit from it.
Yeah.
So it's independent of audience and public and target public.
Yeah. And isn't that the truth? Yeah. We barely scratch the surface. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Crazy. All right. Great question. Thank you so much. From Sarah. Also, I work with a lot of neurodiverse people. How do we ensure that they don't get stressed by this approach? This is a good one. Good question.
It's yes. Mart? A lot of it has to do with the right questions, right? You cannot say I need an answer within seconds, because that would only, not right. As in, you make them think, and if it takes more time, it takes more time. And sometimes there's, yes, you may say, okay, we need to, let's talk about this and figure it out together, instead of me waiting, and building up that pressure. So very valid question there, Sarah. It's about asking the right questions, yes, and it cannot be a question that just increases stress levels.
Right.
It needs to be one where people feel like heard, they feel enabled, they feel like, oh, I can be part of the solution. You want to listen to me. In other words, it needs to trigger a certain part of your brain where people feel confident and not pressured, as in, you better have an answer to this one, otherwise, you're still not performing, right? It cannot be from that angle.
Right. And I do encourage everybody to read the book, because it's just phenomenal. And it does get into the stresses and how to kind of, change the game there. Yeah. And again, we all have to deal with this, right? We all have to deal with the stresses. So how can we kind of change it up? So highly recommend that. Good questions. I think we have time for one more question, guys. So we're gonna, and again, we apologize if we didn't get to everything, folks, but we're doing the best we can with the time we have. So next one is from Rebecca. Rebecca said, can you give us some examples of top effective questions that unlock so that we can start trying this? Good one.
Yeah,
we kind of touched on it, but
we touched on that indeed. I can pull up the card deck and pick a random card. They're all powerful, as in they're referred to as powerful questions for a reason. But again, the majority of them starts with the what and the how and when, that those types of words. Not so much something that puts you under pressure. Let's see here. I'm just pulling up the card deck. If somebody said or did did that to you, what would you think or feel, or what advice would you give to a colleague in your situation? Or let's see here, what options do you have for changing things? What would be the consequences of what would be the consequence of that for you and for others? These are, again, just examples. They make you think,
Yep.
and they make you feel heard. Again, what's, when, how, those types of questions. Again, people
Not so
need to
much why.
feel, not why. No, why increases stress levels. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Even you mentioned one earlier, I think was like, well, what do you think about the outcome, or how do you think
What-
it worked out,
What
right?
would
So
you
I
do
think,
differently?
what would you
What
do
would you do
differently?
differently?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good
Indeed.
stuff. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for all these great questions. I'm so sorry we didn't get to all of them due to time, but we're trying to keep it within the hour here. So again, I can't thank everybody enough for all your help. The producers for handling the show. Obviously, the panelists here. Thank you so much, Mark and Barbara, for coming. And I like that we just have this loosey goosey live event and everybody can just kind of come in here and wing it, and it's so good and so helpful. We can't thank you enough for all your efforts here. Now, Mart also has put some resources in the resources tab also for you to reference. So thank you so much. Real quick, want to kind of get into any closing comments. Would you like to kind of start off, Barbara? Just let us know what you thought today about the questions and kind of how we did.
I think it went awesome. I just want people to know that, this is this is something that you don't need a lot of hours. You just need better conversations, right? I honestly, I think it went absolutely phenomenal. I really hope that people understand the importance of asking powerful questions and let them know that we're here to walk on that journey with them.
Right. I love that. Love that. And I just want Mark, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just so you know, there are folks asking things in the chat, what is the card deck? How do I learn more? So we will have, of course, have links and stuff, folks, in here. So you can reach out to Mart and Barbara, talk to them. Like I said, they're here to help you and can talk to you more about kind of going down this path. So on that note, Mart, what are your final sort of thoughts here?
Yeah, you get the book and the card deck and a few other things with the courses. Of course, it's included. But yeah, the questions were phenomenal. So thank you for that, and thank you, Lory, for all you do to make this go so easy for us. And indeed, the whole APMG team behind you. It's just you make it so easy. So thank you for that. The professionalism at APMG and APMG's team is through the roof. It's like that's all you do for a living, but you do a lot more than that, of course. A quote from the Fast Company. Fast Company once said, "Coaching isn't therapy," they said. "It's product development with you as the product."
Love that. That's really
Good.
I just thought of a quote from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyone remembers this? What is it? Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around every once in a while, you could miss it. That kind of pertains to what we're talking about. Everybody stop.
It is. Yeah.
Right? I know. I just tied that in, folks.
Yeah.
That's right. Welcome to Caffeinated New Yorker here. All right. QR codes are here, folks. So feel free to again, connect, link with us. We're here to help you, talk you through some of the things that we've gone over today. And also, don't forget, over on the APMG International website, you can search for answers to over 3,000 and change questions. It's a comprehensive free resource connecting you with over 200 and change experts from around the world. And don't forget, you can also listen to the audio versions of our shows on your preferred podcast platform. So don't forget, take a moment, like, comment, share, all that fun stuff. It doesn't cost anything, and it actually helps other people discover our content. And also a couple upcoming events. So Tuesday, June 3rd, we have Introducing the Artificial Intelligence Practitioner Show. Wednesday, June 4th, we have an AI festival. Actually, sorry, Wednesday and Thursday, the AI festival. And then Thursday, the 19th of June, we have an event about how change management drives long-term success in a volatile world. So again, all these details are on apmginternational.com. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, the panelists, and thanks for all the audience. We really appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your Friday. Thanks, folks.